What's good, everybody? Welcome back to the Cloud Slayer channel. Hope you guys are doing well. Today, I went through UAPs on one of my previous rambles, but this ramble, I think I'm going to talk about ghosts. So, these ghost stories are things that I've experienced. I've never recorded any like data or anything like that, or any hard evidence, because when a lot of the stuff happened, I was real young. So I know if you've been here for a while and you heard me on some past podcasts about talking about ghosts and stuff like that, it's going to be referring to these stories that happened to me as a young boy. Well, up till pretty much into teens, early teens, not older teens. But I mean, they're like when I got older, past into like the high school years, like things would be just like you feel cold, or you felt like you weren't alone in a room and stuff like that. Never really seen like shadowy figures like I did when I was younger. So I know I addressed one of them at from my grandpa's house when I was real young, and my mom heard me talking to somebody in his kitchen. When when I was a kid, she thought I thought I was alone or whatever. So, but she heard me talking to somebody like a shadowy figure, and he had a bloody shirt on. He was dressed like kind of like a robber, a burglar. I said like the Hamburglar from what is that? That McDonald's, one of those characters. So I said he was dressed up kind of like him, except not the same colors and stuff like that. Had a bloody shirt and stuff like that, and that was probably one of the earliest ones I had. And if I'm referring back to my grandpa's house, it would be in his attic. So in his attic, my parents had this room that they would smoke in, and it was an unfurnished attic, but it was still had room there. So there was a back room that they used for smoking, which that was like the only room that didn't have any like insulation. So it was freaking cold during the winter, but also pretty hot during the summertime. A little bit more than the rest of the house, but they were smoking there, and it was my parents. It was weird, right? I go in there, they'd just be like, hey, yell at me and be like, hey, we're smoking in here, get out of here, stuff like that. It wasn't a very big room. You could probably sit like 4 people, 5 people, 4 people for sure, like comfortably on a chair, because they just had like little wooden chairs and stuff like that in there. Dining room chairs, little old wooden chairs. But, about 4 people comfortably. And if you had more than that, then it wasn't that good, So, but they were smoking, so I ran in there because I wanted to ask my mom a question. I believe I had to be about 2.5 to maybe 3 at the most oldest. Maybe not even that old, maybe 2 to 2.5, because we moved out of my grandpa's house when I was about 2.5. So right after my little brother was born. But they tell me to go out, and then I go to leave. So it was kind of exposed to the back of that room, because the one side towards the rest of the living space was had like what is that stuff? That filler, anyways. That the pink stuff, the pink fluffy stuff that gets little shards in there and stuff like that, and you touch it, it could be in your hands or something if you're not used to it. That insulation, and so. But I looked the other way, and that side didn't have anything at all. It was pretty bare, and it actually was like another room back there that they would just like throw junk in. And I remember seeing an arm wave by, like I kind of like come here in a way, like almost reach out to you, not to you, but to me. So I remember that scared the daylights out of me. It was in the middle of the day. Nobody else seen it, just me, and because they were sitting there. Chit-chatting and, talking about whatever they were talking about, gossip stuff, because it was my aunt. My aunt was over, and, what happens when women get together, right? They like to talk, and they like to catch up, and they want to know everything that's going on, because they love each other in that way, So And especially in Native communities, we like to chit chat. But everybody likes to chit chat. It's not just Natives. So, but you get really distracted in that moment. So I remember seeing that, and it scared the bejesus out of me and stuff like that. But that wasn't. These were my only ghost experiences. There was that time when my mom had to go to the store and pick up some stuff for supper time, and it was probably about noon to 1 o'clock. It hadn't started school yet. Or it was like my brother was real young, so I was real close to starting school, probably the next year or something like that, or a few months from then. But so they had already taught me that if I was ever at home to lock the doors, or and don't answer them, or make an escape plan to where to hide if they were to break into the house and stuff like that. And so my mom ended up going, long story short, she ended up going to the grocery store. I'm playing in my room, and in the corner of my eye, shadowy figure catches my eye. I look down there. It was just dark, it was quite a bit away, especially for a little guy, about 4 years old, 4 or 5 maybe, at the oldest. I want to say about 4 years old. So looking down there, appeared down the hallway out of my bedroom, and in the living room, more towards the doorway and the door to the basement, I see that figure go around the corner. Looked as big as my dad. My dad's 6'3". He's probably like 220 pounds at the time, all right? He was a little lighter than he is now, but I was like, Dad, what are you doing? You ain't supposed to be home for a while, because I knew, like, he'd get home after, like, episodes of Dragon Ball Z and stuff, because I remember I was in Dragon Ball Z at the time, waiting for every episode and shit, but on Cartoon Network. But I was like, Dad, why are you going over there? And then he turned the corner, and as I'm going towards that direction to go see my father, I hear the basement door close, which would be on the right. The outside door is to the left if you were to turn that corner. Immediate left or immediate right to go downstairs. So I heard the door close to the basement, and I'm like, why did he go downstairs for? And he didn't even say hi. But, being a 4-year-old, you assume that it was, he just didn't hear me and stuff like that. So I ended up going down there. I went and opened the door, and the lights were off. I was like, Dad, why did you leave the lights off? Like, it's not safe going down these steep old stairs, because we had some pretty steep stairs and stuff like that. I wasn't coordinated enough for it. And, you assume now, like, what now that you didn't know then, is that your eyes have to adjust pretty well. So it takes a while to adjust. So anyways, turned on the light, ran down the stairs, like, Dad, where are you at? And then I'd look around, everything was off still, and didn't hear nothing, no replies or anything. So I checked the back bar, I checked the one room, and then we also used the main living room as, like, we threw a bed down there for somebody, because we had a lot of cousins live with us and stuff like that. So we didn't have much places to put them, but, except in those spots and stuff. Or when people came over for ceremonies or something, they came and stayed in those spots. So, but found nothing. I went into the laundry room, which was one of the creepiest rooms in there, because I always swore I seen things in the corner of my eyes when I was a kid, when we were playing like video games and stuff down in the basement, because they had a pool table that came with the house when they got it. So we were always playing pool there, and always see stuff. I would always say that, and my older cousins would be like, "You're just crazy, you're scaring us. And we'll beat you up if you keep lying." I'm like, I'm not lying though. So, but anyways, and then the other room, it was supposedly haunted too. So I can go into a story about that as well while I'm talking about this. So I think that this figure related to that, because I got scared. I ran up, a cold chill down my back, ran up. I knew nobody was there. I knew I was alone, that I had seen something. So I ran upstairs into my room, covered up in my blankies, like nothing could hurt me, right? Because that's what you do when you're a kid. You hide in your blankets and stuff like that. But Told my mom as soon as she got back, because she was like, help me with the, hauling the groceries. I got your brother. And I'm like, I'm scared. She's like, why are you scared? And then I told her a story, and then she's like, my boy, you gotta leave those things alone, like when you see them, stuff like that, because that's how all people talked that I knew growing up, was like, you don't mess with them, they don't mess with you, so it's best to leave them alone and stuff like that. But she was like, we also believe that we can kind of like exercise them with our medicine men. Anyway, so we had our Uncle Eugene come through, and he basically went through and, smudged, said prayers, and he apparently ended up talking to this being there at the house that was in that basement room. And apparently, like, he was brought there from an elder lady from previous homeowners. That's what he said when he talked to this spirit, was that he was called there because she was always locked in that room. She was sick, and her family, she couldn't do much but be in that room. And she was full of despair, sadness, and loneliness. So it ended up calling this being over there the spirit. And eventually, like, she ended up getting hauled to the hospital, and that we assumed that she just died, or they moved or something. But we assumed, it was said that this thing told him that guy, girl, I don't remember what the spirit gender was or anything like that, but it said that she went to the hospital because she was sick, more sick than normal, and that, like I said, we assumed she died, but she never came back, and that this entity was waiting for her to come back because, she called him to that place to be with her and spend time with her. So he was waiting there for years, because we had lived there for a while too. We lived there for a few years, thinking back. So very scary, but he, Uncle Eugene ended up asking this being to leave and stuff like that. And I had a hard time believing, like, people talking to ghosts and stuff like that, because you always hear about it and stuff like that. And like, even when he was doing that, because I remember he almost stumbled and stuff like that, because he said that the presence was pretty overwhelming when he was talking to this being and stuff like that. To me, it was like, it was a joke, like, he's only pretending and stuff like that. But after that it wasn't as bad, like, it didn't seem like a lot of the occurrences that were going on before was happening as much. I think it was more like, how you build up that you psych yourself out because you're thinking about it all the time. I think it more became something of that nature. But that wasn't the last time our Uncle Eugene had to, like, exercise ghosts. We ended up moving, because we lived at Brooklyn Center at this time, and we ended up moving to Brooklyn Park. And we had my sister, her room, her closet door would always open up, and my mom would always be mad, like, keep your goddamn door closed, and stuff like that. And my sister's like, I don't open it. She opens it because she doesn't like the door closed. And my mom's like, who's she? And my sister's like, the girl in the closet. Who else? Like, she's my friend. She doesn't like the door closed. And my mom's like, you're just messing with us or whatever. And, it turned out that, I remember I seen stuff in there too, because we had family members come out, and the freaking thing, middle of the night, I seen that thing open itself up, and I told my mom, like, Mom, there's some shit in there, man, because she had the girl stay in my parents' room. They just put a little, like, air mattress on the floor. They slept there, and then we took the girls' room, because our room was a little bit bigger, because we're older boys and stuff like that. And so our uncles or cousins or whoever, a bunch of people came over, because it was a pretty big ceremony and stuff like that. So they stayed like the whole weekend, probably a whole week. It wasn't uncommon for us. and my mom's busy cooking and cleaning and stuff like that, right? But anyways, all that stuff transpired, so we ended up having to call my Uncle Eugene there, because I think my mom said she's seen some stuff too, where middle of the day, because it was just our youngest sister there, and our younger sister was old enough to go to school, start to go to school, and that she closed that door, and throughout the day it kept opening itself up. So she for sure knew she wasn't lying, and she apologized to my little sister. We're sorry. I'm sorry. I didn't know it's actually going on. But Uncle Eugene ended up coming through, and this was towards the end of his life, so he needed more assistance while walking and stuff like that, because his health was getting bad, diabetes and all that stuff. He was a bigger man, and he didn't really take care of himself all that well, which happens, But God bless him. Pray for him. Love that guy too, And he ended up going there, and he said that when he ended up talking to this thing, because he spoke the language, Ojibwe language, and that's what he would do when he would almost exercise. But it's weird, because to me, they're like, when you go into the other world, you speak your natural language or whatever. It's like, how do they communicate? Like, how do these beings communicate with him when he's speaking the Ojibwe language, when their ancestors, or I assume their ancestors, weren't like Ojibwe speakers or believers in that way? You know what I mean? So they say you just do the things that you believed in and stuff like that, spiritually and all that jazz. But I don't know how that works. But he said he ended up talking this thing, and it turned out that it was actually an angel. An angel brought from a previous little girl, because that room used to be a girl's room. So instead of painting rooms different colors, my mom was like, okay, this room's a little smaller. This room is also painted for girls, so it's perfect for us, and stuff like that. And so she ended up just being a girl's room, and I don't know if it was the girls that were there right before, or previous ones before that, because I know the house was a little bit older, but regardless, he ended up going in there and talking to this thing. This thing identified itself as being like an angel and stuff like that, and that she was there to play with the girls and help them just not be sad in life and stuff like that. And it's crazy. So but it all happened. It all happened, and I remember bearing witness to that. And I remember telling friends at school, and they just said I was crazy, that none of that exists, and all that shit. The same shit that some people go through. I'm like, dude, I was there. Like, how the fuck you gonna tell me just because you weren't there? It is what it is. You can argue, and you can argue. You can cry till you tears in your eyes, and nobody's gonna listen. And it's entirely possible. And that's why I don't discredit anything anybody ever says to me, because I know how it is to be called a liar, or kind of crazy. You know what I mean? When you're not, when these things happen, and there's other people that can attest to it, but there's no use getting mad about it. Just move on, and it's understandable when you don't have any substantial proof or anything like that. But who's gonna be ready to start recording? Even if we had the technology that we have today, because I was born in '92, so these happened early or late '90s, early 2000s for me, and stuff like that. So other things that ever happened to me was just staying places. I've seen shadow figures in the windows and stuff like that. It was some old reservation. Some girl named Chelsea. My parents, they were family friends and stuff like that, and I was friends with their daughter. She was a tall chick, but I remember seeing something there. It was in the basement, so the light was being emitted from the frickin' outside, the moonlight, and it was coming down in the basement, because we were all staying in the basement, and I just see the head shape go by, not from the window, but inside the basement itself, stuff like that, or just feeling like something's staring at me. There was this one time at the same house in Brooklyn Park, and it was in our room, and I woke up in the middle of the night. I was kind of known to sleepwalk, and I didn't know I sleepwalked, and I only did it a couple times. Like, never happened again, you know. I remember they told me I woke up with some cookies under my pillow, and they're like, you came out and grabbed the cookies and went right back in the room, and that's all we seen of you. And I'm like, I didn't go get anything, so I sleepwalked to get some cookies. But anyways, I woke up, and we had these gaming chairs, little rocking chairs. They sit on the ground. They just move back and forth while you sit there and play video games, because we had like a PS2 at the time. You know, PS2 was out for like maybe 2 years or something like that. So not as expensive as it was when it first came out, but it's still pretty expensive, right? But I seen a shadow. It wasn't a shadow. It was a ghostly figure. This one was like transparent, but you could still see the figure itself. And it was weird because there wasn't really any like wars that were fought there, I guess. So I was confused because we're in northern Minnesota, or no. Okay, so we were in the cities of Minnesota that time, but I'm in northern Minnesota now. But frickin', he had like one of those little curly mustaches. He had those like Civil War attire on, and I was like, that's why I was confused when I got older. I'm like, I don't think they had any like battles up here. So who knows if somebody was gonna go and they could have killed themselves around there. I don't know. So that's only speculation and making sense of it in my own brain, which I don't know the entire backstory of that. But anyways, that's mostly like the good stories that I had, good experiences that I can tell you about, that where these things made me a believer and make me not doubt anybody else when they tell me they see stuff, or ghosts, UFOs, UAPs, any of that kind of jazz. Because, you know, like I said, I have my own experiences, and I've been called crazy from my elementary friends to middle school. So, is what it is, right? Not everybody sees stuff, and not everybody's going to believe you, but that shouldn't stop you from coming forward and telling your experiences and stuff like that. So if anybody has any ghost stories, anybody has frickin' UAP stories, man, hit me up. Any of that stuff, or you experienced life and you had hard times, and you found your way through, and you're persevering now, you're becoming a better person or something. I love those stories, and life experiences, because they can teach everybody around you a little bit more of things that maybe they never experienced. So anyways, if you're new here, please hit that like and subscribe button. If you're returning, thanks guys, thanks for coming back, love you guys, and you guys are awesome. I hope you guys have a great day, a great week, and thank you for hearing this ghost ramble here. Peace out, guys. Love you guys.